I want to talk today about how to think about how you list your work experience. And one of the things I want you to keep in mind as I go through this one-page slide is, why do I have such a tough time getting my illustrious 10-year career down to 2 pages? Or I could get my entire 36-year career down to 26 words. If I can do that, you can definitely fill up 2 pages in all its glory of who you are and what you're about and the successes you've had. And the biggest problem that people have is multifold. They have an inability to actually distill down the most important scenes from their life, their work life, that matter to the people they want to work for. So your resume is a marketing document. It's not a work history document. It's all about, where do I want to go and what sells me or advertises me best that I can help those people. I can help that company. I can help that team. I can help that community. I can help that industry, whatever it might be. That's how you want to think about it. And much of the time, people spend a lot of real estate on the resume putting stuff there that doesn't really advertise them effectively. The second thing is, they have a really tough time separating what they do from what happened as a result of what they did. Meaning, if you run the accounting team, that's an activity. That's not a highlight. It's not an accomplishment. It's a nothing. You run the team. You do 8 things to run the team, right? You got to put the infrastructure in place. You got to manage the systems. You got to manage the bodies. You coach the people. You got to do a number. You got to develop the reports. You got to, file the papers, stay in compliance, right? There's just a handful of things that you do, none of which are exciting and none of which really sell you best. But when you make impact in your organization and you help your company achieve goals that make them more money or decrease risk of penalties, delays, citations, or whatever, position them effectively, maybe to be acquired or merge or something like that, that helps a business do something a business wants, which is serve its customers and make profit so that they could serve more customers so that they can make more profit. And a lot of what they're doing along the way is they're working with people and hopefully creating a wonderful employee-based environment where you're having fun, you're happy, you like going to work, you enjoy your job, you're developing, you're growing, you're contributing, and you're feeling appreciated. Yes, that's awesome. But ultimately, when you're selling yourself, you need to be focused on the things that matter to the company. So I want to show you a section. And I tried to figure out what was the most economical way to show you this. And it's not a sample. I want to talk through how I would stage out that section of the resume. Cool? Who's stoked? Give me I'm stoked. I'm stoked. You know what? I'm so stoked. I'm sipping out of my Can I Help You? Can you see that? Can I Help You mug? That's a picture of me right there in front of my computer helping you. All right. Let's get to it. All right. So, the professional experience portion of the resume. The company name goes on the left. By itself, with a city or state if you want, and over on the right, it's the years. But basically, in general, you want the company name. Underneath the company, you want to tell me who the company is and what their mission or purpose in life is. Give me context, and if it's an incredibly large company, tell me which area you work in. And why do we want to do this? Because you are painting a picture and telling someone a story about who you are, and in order for me to assemble that picture of you, the more colorful your description, the easier it is for me to visualize you. And what if you worked for a small company that was awesome, but I never heard of it? Or what if you're a technologist and one of your organizations was Pepsi and you were working in the technology department, but then you went to a startup that was basically building a similar type of product that didn't look anything like a sugary beverage company, and you were a technologist there? I'd want to understand that. What if you work in Europe and you a few years back, and now you live in the US? What you're trying to do is you're trying to create a storyboard for me that helps me understand. Maybe you work for Cisco Systems and it's a hardware, software, services, large entity, high-speed networks and switches and major platforms. Okay, well, there's a lot of different divisions. There's engineering, there's sales, there's whatever, there's hardware, there's software, there's services. There's all different areas. And you might be able to give me more specific language about who they are, what they do, and how you contributed to their growth. And you can do this in no more than 2 lines. Okay? So what you're doing is you're creating a nice, consistent view of the organizations. The first question a recruiter or a hiring official has is, who did you work for and when did you work there? Those are 2 of the first 6 questions they ask themselves. If it takes them longer to get to that information, the longer it takes them, the worse your resume is, which is why I want you to put it in reverse chronological order, and I want you to put the company name all the way to the left so that I don't have to fish around the middle of your middle, meaning the center piece, the bisection of your resume, where I have to look to try to find who you're working for. It matters more to me than what you're doing. It does. I would rather have people that come from really great companies. And I said really great companies. I didn't say really big companies. Although big companies can be great and small companies can be great. So that's the first thing that you want to do. And a lot of people mistake or make assumptions that whoever's looking at their resume is going to know who that large organization is. And or hey, there's only 10 companies in that space, you should know who that is. Maybe, maybe not. But this also gives you a chance to do what? Put colorful words in your resume that actually matter. Can you say, I focused on Cisco X thousand switches? Okay, well, that puts keywords into the resume in the appropriate context that gives me color. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is below that and on the left, put the title. If you want to put a little indentation, that's fine. I just tried to make this easy for you to see. Now here, I don't really, until I put my base resume together, I had never seen anybody do what I'm about to tell you. And I don't see really any other career coaches recommending this, but I put your title. Then what I would do is I would tell me a story about what it is you're responsible for. Why do I want to do it this way? Well, number one, I do want to know that you manage the customer service team. I do want to know that you run the marketing team. But that in and of itself isn't an accomplishment. And so I want to just understand, I want to understand the parameters of what you do. So I'm an account manager managing the central region of this division, 58 clients, a book of business of $32 million. These kind of clients, these kind of industries, that tells me an awesome story. It just tells me who you are. That may not even be an accomplishment. You could say account manager, blah, 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 started central region practice from scratch, now 32 million, 0 clients to 50 clients or whatever it is. That tells me something. That tells me you grew it, right? As opposed to shrank it. But what happens if you're the account manager of the central region, you own all the accounts, and when it started, you had 60 million in revenue and you now have 52 million in revenue? Do you want to tell future employers that you dropped it $8 million? No. What markets you best? It's 52 million. I just said 2 completely true statements, and they both market you best. One had a delta that showed you grew it. Another one didn't say that, but gave me a context that you're managing a $52 million book of business or whatever it is. So this is where you get to put the housekeeping. So manage all customer service functions, including team of 12 customer service reps who manage 58,000 clients globally across 5 continents, including whatever, you know what I mean, in X countries, 58 product lines. That tells me something. It creates complexity, but it creates a clear vision that you are the person who's managing everything related to the customer service department. But a lot of you, what you do is you make bullets out of this and you say, manage customer service team, period. Next line, bullet. Built customer service systems, bullet, period. Next bullet, right? And this is why you can't get your resume down to 2 pages, is because you're spending a lot of time making up bullets that shouldn't even be bullets. So speaking of bullets, what should the bullets entail? Okay, have a bullet. I love 3 bullets. And the first thing you want to think of is, what is bullet worthy? So what is bullet worthy? Well, if I'm going to create a bullet, I have a rule that the bullet has to be an accomplishment related to what I call the Great 8. If you don't know Andy's definition of the Great 8, there it is right there. Revenue, you generate revenue, you increase market awareness or lift the brand recognition. You have customer attraction. So in some way, shape, or form, you've helped your team or a customer join you or attract you or discover you. Or maybe maybe you went and gave a speech. It could be a million different ways that you do that. You service the customer so that they're happier. You position your organization for corporate growth. That could be, I'm on the executive team and I did everything to bring the organization to market for an IPO, initial public offering, or I work in mergers and acquisitions, or I work on the accounting team to ensure we are compliant in all of the filings and all of the rules and all of the whatever. That could be a company growth. So it could be growth, events, acquisitions, divestitures. It could be compliance, any of that stuff. And then employee happiness. But maybe your job is to make sure that all the employees are happy, contributing, growing, feeling appreciated. Awesome. Maybe you're the HR person, or maybe you're just a line manager who has a team. Or you reduce costs from an expense management perspective, or you reduce costs through a process efficiency perspective where you're building processes or improving them to make sure that they are more efficient. So if you're going to go into the bulleting area, if your bullet does not cover one of these 8, it's not a bullet. So manage the customer service team is just, I manage the team. You didn't say anything about did the employees get happier or not. You're just telling me I manage the team. That's not a bullet. Raised employee happiness from a satisfaction score of 3.5 to 4.8 within 6 months by doing something, that's a bullet. Makes sense? That's a bullet, but every bullet, all 3 of your bullets, give or take, should address these things. The next thing is, how do you format the bullet? Most of the resumes that I review, they format the bullet backwards. Actually, most of them they do it backwards and they don't even put the front part in. So if you say manage the customer service team, manage the accounting team, I consulted on projects, I gave presentations, I pulled reports, I built a system. None of that is a bullet. So the effect is what I'm looking for, and the effect is the benefit. Well, what happened as a result of you generating those reports? That's what I'm looking for, and I want to find it first. So I call that the effect, which is the benefit. The cause is I built an executive dashboard so that the management team could make better decisions. Well, that's the activity. The reason you did it is so they can make better decisions. But now what you really need to tell me is, how did it improve decision-making? Improving decision-making can come in a variety of formats. Maybe you accelerated their ability to see data that enabled them to predict trends 3 months faster than they otherwise would have. Okay, that's something, right? So increased or accelerated visibility is going to help me. But the more granular you could get that, even better. So what was it? So that did you increase your financial interest or yield because the management team was able to more effectively predict where they should be allocating their investment funds? So what you want to ultimately do is get what the benefit was. So if you're managing the customer service team, you want to get what the benefit was in the front of the bullet. Increased customer satisfaction by what percentage? Increased something turnaround time by. So raised revenue, decreased cost, whatever it is, we want to see what the official benefit is first. That's what people want to know. What's the delta? So you need to tell me the delta, because if you just say, well, I increased it, well, I don't know how much. Did you increase it 1 day, 1 minute, 1 hour, or 1 year? So it's really important that you're answering questions that I might have to show how awesome you are. Make sense? So you want the effect first and you want the how second. What most of you do is you just talk about the how, or you just talk about the how first. Or you don't even put the actual benefit in. If you have a bullet that just has the how, or the how I manage the team, okay, that's how you raised customer or employee happiness by managing a team. But you didn't really tell me what the benefit is. Just throw that in the housekeeping area up right underneath the title. If you're not absolutely sure what the deltas are, if you know what the deltas are from a benefits perspective, you want those to go in the bullet, and the delta should cover one of those 8 things. Then the last thing I want you to think about is the number of bullets that you have. Most of you have entirely too many bullets, and nobody, and I mean nobody, is reading all the bullets that you have for each of your different positions. So when I see somebody who's been in a position for 5 years and has 10 bullets, I'm only going to look at the top couple, and then I'm going to move down. And some of you are going to say, well, Andy, I've been in the same position for 10 years. If you've been in the same position for 10 years, what I would likely do is either break up and use a more advanced tactic where you're talking about the different functions you handle, and then put a couple of bullets in each of those, just so from the eye test standpoint, I'm only seeing a few bullets related to a particular topic or title. There is absolutely no law that says you have to put your title over here. If I needed to, so I worked with a woman a few weeks back, and she said, Andy, well, they call me a data analyst, but I'm not really a data analyst. I don't want to be a data analyst. I do a lot of other things. I do client relations or client service. I do process efficiency, and I do some process restructuring or process redesign based on data that I analyze and draw conclusions. We gave her 3 sections of a position that she had been at for a few years to show her client services accomplishments, her process re-engineering accomplishments, and her data engineering, so to speak, accomplishments. So we were able to show how she evolved into higher level responsibilities, even though she had the same title. So there are a million ways to write a resume, and there are tons and tons of tricks that are really, really effective. But for most of you, what I'm showing you on this slide will be sufficient. And just because you've been in a job 10 years, let's say you're a project manager and you've been a project manager for 10 years. Let's just say you ran one project a year, every year for 10 years. So every January 1st, you got a new assignment, you ran a new project, you were an IT project manager, and you helped your company implement a new system. Awesome. But you don't have to take me through all 10 projects. But in your housekeeping area, you could say, project manager covering, handling enterprise-wide, large-scale IT systems ranging in budget from $500,000 to $2 million. Period. During tenure, managed 10 large-scale projects, managed 10 full-scale software development life cycles. or something like that that shows me you had repetitions, but I don't need to see a bullet for every one of those. Do you want to show me the different technologies you implemented? Then show me the benefits of what those individual projects who had those individual technologies, what they did. Or do you want to flex your muscles as far as the solution type? Maybe you're working with the engineering team implementing something for them. Maybe you implemented a customer relationship management system for the call center team or for somebody like that. Or maybe you implemented a Salesforce automation system for the sales team. And you did one of those each year for 3 years. Well, what kind of positions are you going for in the future? You want to put those bullets on your resume, but you don't need to put every single one that you've ever done. Again, highlights what sells you best. So there's a million ways to skin it, but most people whose resume I look at, most of them do most of this incorrectly. So I haven't talked as much about this portion of the resume in my live office hour shows and in my weekly shows. So I really wanted to bring this to the forefront to get you thinking about how to section each of these. And then again, if you have multiple titles, you would put another title below it. You would follow the same format with a short paragraph and then a couple of bullets and so on and so forth. Okay? And then you're going to say, well, how far back should I go? Whatever sells you best. So you don't need to list everything you ever did at a position you held for 8 years, and you don't need to list every company you've ever had for your entire life. But what I want you to do is I want you to figure out how far back should my resume go, and what is it that highlights me best as far or sells me best as far as how far back I should go. But once I decide how far back I want to go, I want you to make sure that once you decide what I call your cut line. So your cut line could be 10 years, your cut line could be 15 years, your cut line could be 20 years or 30 years. I don't really care. But which companies do you want to make sure that a reviewer, recruiter, hiring official sees? And once you start your chronology, make sure you stay intact. Meaning, don't omit any organizations or companies that you worked for that were later than your cut line. So if your cut line is 2004 and we're in 2024, you want to show every company you worked with for the last 20 years. Before 2004, there are a million ways to skin that. You can show just companies that you feel are germane. You could completely omit it if you feel that sells you best. You might pull forward or cherry pick some of the companies you want to mention. You could do that as well. Okay, so this is really what I wanted to cover here, and I want you to give me your resume questions, and I'm going to hit you up, or we're going to hit those right now. But one of the other things I want y'all to know is I have a 70-minute of teaching resume writing webinar. It's free. I'm going to have Kara put that in the chat. And she'll link that in the chat. And also in the chat, I see she's posted our Mile Walk Academy website page, because if you are interested in any of our programs, there are steep discounts on everything this week through Friday night. But the resume writing webinar is completely free. So you're welcome to check that out. Kara can drop that in the chat when she gets a second. And let me see. I know you've got some resume questions. Maybe I need to back up and just pull this back up just in case. And let me see what's what. Okay. Shane, can you explain the bullet 2 and bullet 3? I thought sorry. What you're looking at here is me just showing you a format and me just giving you points. This is a great question. Every single bullet should be about the great 8. That's number 1, point number 1. Every single bullet should be in the format of the benefit first and how you did it second. And I'm just telling you, I would probably wrap the bullets up in 3 bullets per job title. Yes, there are exceptions. Some of you might have 2. Some of you might have 4. Just be economical. Every single bullet you write should be about the great 8. So bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, all should be grade 8 related. I'm not saying your first bullet is just a big 8 and the second one is not. I'm saying my point number 1 about your bullets is make them all the grade 8. Point number 2 about bullets is make sure you cite the benefit first and the how you did it second. And my third point about bullets is have 3 bullets. Cool? Yeah, I'm sorry that is a little confusing. But I was trying to have my cake, eat it too, put it all into one spot for you, just so you could get the points out and understand. It was company name with a paragraph, company or current title with a paragraph, bullet, bullet, bullet. They all follow all 3 of those concepts, and then you go on to your next title or your next company. Great question, and I'm glad you asked that, because I'm guessing, Shane, that I probably confused the heck out of a lot of people. All right, Eric Anderson, how about the adage, no more than 2 pages? I love that adage. So what's the question? There's no reason, absolutely none, that any of you, even if you've been working 50 years, can't get your resume down to 2 pages. And if you tell me, oh, Andy, I just can't, you give me your resume and I will get that down to a page. I will, and without you losing any power. It's because you're stuffing in things that don't sell you best or need to be in there to sell you best. And that's what a lot of people do. There are exceptions. If you are working, or if you're targeting the federal government, you could have a 10-page resume, I don't care. And it could be as detailed as you want, put everything in it. If you are a doctor, a lawyer, a researcher, a dean, a professor, or whatever, and you use more of a CV style, it's okay to. I once coached a woman who was a medical doctor and an MBA, and I was coaching her for a dean position at 3 major universities. She had multi-interviews, panels, the whole 9 yards, and she had a 34-page CV, and that was okay. And I looked at all of it. Vivian, how many pages for a good resume? Recruiters said they only want to see 2 and take 30 seconds to scan. Yes. Actually, I didn't. Let me see if I could do this. Let me introduce you to Andy AI. So for those of you that don't know this, I have a digital clone that's been trained on everything I've ever done. Okay. So a couple weeks ago, I was testing it. And it says, how far back should your resume go? I asked myself, how far back should the resume go? And I want you to read this. When it comes to deciding how far back your resume should go, the golden rule is to focus on what markets you best. Does that sound like me? This isn't about sticking to some arbitrary number like 10, 15, or 20. Didn't I just say that? It's about showcasing the experiences that highlighting your strengths and make you the most attractive candidate for the job. And it went out and figured out that I talked about this somewhere on YouTube and somewhere in my LinkedIn workshop and somewhere in a job mini and in my resume writing workshop and so on. So Andy AI said that. If you got experience from 20 to 30 years ago that are relevant, don't hesitate to include it. That's true. However, once you decide a starting point, didn't I say a cut line? You need to maintain a continuous chronology. That means listing every job in your timeline. Didn't I just say that? Avoid the gaps. For those earlier roles, you might not be directly relevant, but still add value. You can create a section like additional professional experience, because this is exactly what I would have told you to do. This way you can highlight key achievements that sell you best. Remember, your resume is a marketing document, not just a work history. I mean, I laughed so hard when I did this because this is exactly what I would say. And it damn well better be because I trained it. So anybody who's in the job search coaching program has access to Andy AI. And if you want, you can play it and it talks like I do, meaning it's my sound. So you don't even have to read it. You could and by the way, I don't know if you know it, but when you interact with Andy AI, it'll ask you a question because it wants to get to learn you better. What's your current situation? Do you have some older experience that you think could really make your resume pop? So now it wants you to tell it more so that when you log in next time, it knows more about you. Isn't that cool? Who's using Andy AI? I know my boot campers are because I can see what you're asking Andy AI. All right, that's pretty funny.